not the dead, rather the living.
I want to put something out to everybody. We're looking for some ghost towns in Nebraska to investigate this spring and this summer in Nebraska. And when I'm talking ghost towns, I mean abandoned buildings and, just population zero. I've been looking for some in Nebraska, and a lot of them I have found aren't really abandoned. They're not ghost towns, they have a population and everything else. It's just kind of a disappointment. But anyway, if you have any information, please let us know so we can start checking into them. And if you want to go with us, you're more than welcome. I mean, it ain't no big deal. Now let's get started with Miner's Delight. Okay. In March of 2016, we discovered 3 possibilities for an investigation: South Pass City, Atlantic City, and Miner's Delight, also called Hamilton City in Wyoming. First, we went to South Pass City. That was a joke. It was more like a bunch of museums all gathered up in a bunch. All the buildings, you could go into them, but once you got into the entrance, there were walls there with windows, and you couldn't really get into the rooms. They had all kinds of antiques and stuff like that to make it look like an old-time setting, but, it was kind of a disappointment. I got a few EVPs out of there, but, nothing to jump up and down over. So we went to Atlantic City. Atlantic City was a bigger disappointment. They called it a ghost town, but it was populated, and it had big city streets and, restaurants and grocery store and everything. It wasn't a ghost town. So we started looking for Miner's Delight. That in itself was a chore. I'm going to play you a video about the history of Miner's Delight to give you an idea about this place, and I'll be right back with you.
The buildings you see behind me are a common sight across Wyoming and a testament to the boom and bust nature of the mining culture that much of the state was founded on. This ghost town, Hamilton City, or more commonly known as Miner's Delight, was founded in 1868 when gold was discovered in the area. The Miner's Delight mine was located about a quarter-mile west of the town. Boom and bust periods followed the operation of the mine, and in its heyday, this town boasted 75 people, 40 of which were miners. Problems associated with working the mine efficiently and the lack of productive ore ended a chapter in Miner's Delight history. From March 1882 until the turn of the century, the Miner's Delight mine was not worked. Brief attempts to work the mine occurred again in 1907 and during the years 1932 to 1946 during the Great Depression. Today, through historic preservation by the Bureau of Land Management and various university programs and courses, the ghost town of Miner's Delight stands as a testament to the passage of time and provides historians with a peek at early Wyoming life and the gold mining culture. From the University of Wyoming Cooperative Extension Service, I'm Mae Smith, exploring the nature of Wyoming.
Okay, that gave you a brief idea about Miner's Delight. Let me tell you, I've been investigating the paranormal for 20 plus years. In all my years, I have never been to a place like this. You hear all sorts of stories about different experiences from ghost hunters that have gone into some pretty terrifying places. but nothing like this one. We arrived at Miners Delight around 11:30 a.m. on the 29th of June, 2016, after driving the back roads of Wyoming for hours looking for this ghost town. And we were about ready to give up until we noticed a sign from the Bureau of Land Management and parked alongside the road next to a path going down a hill towards a small gate. Once we walked through the gate, the path was a little less than a quarter of a mile long, all the way downhill to a small footbridge crossing over a creek with really some swiftly flowing water. I was amazed at all the underbrush that surrounded the entire area. But I was more impressed with the old structures that were scattered around the area. I did notice some unusual things about it. Once we crossed over the bridge, there was a change in atmosphere. It was a pretty warm day, but when we crossed that bridge, it seemed like it dropped about 5 degrees at least. And my wife and I, we kind of looked at each other. We were just, like, wow, that's odd. And we walked back across the bridge again, and the temperatures were pretty normal. So we got over into Miners Delight and crossed back over the bridge and started walking around. We started checking out some of the old buildings. I took pictures of the outside of each building, along with pictures of the inside of the buildings. I could feel a presence in some of them. Almost every one of the structures had something in it. But this one building in particular had a strong presence in it. I took out my electromagnetic field tester from my pocket along with a digital recorder. After turning them on, I began doing a short EVP session. After a few minutes, I placed the recorder down on the floor and left for about 10 minutes before returning to get the recorder. When I picked it up, I should have listened to it right off the bat, but I didn't. I went and I stuck it into my pocket. I'm going to play you a couple of the EVPs that we got from inside that one building. We got 2 EVPs that were pretty impressive. They were in separate locations, but I'm going to play you one of them, and you'll hear a man say, "What is that?" Then you'll hear him say, "Who are you?" Then he'll call for another spirit named Trevor. See this thing here? If you get close to it, these lights will flash. I would appreciate it if you go close to it. It won't harm you at all. I give you my word as a gentleman. This is really neat stuff. This is really neat stuff. This is really neat stuff. And I went to this other building, and when I walked in, uh, I heard shuffling around. It felt like more footsteps than mine. Okay. And I turned my recorder on and I set it down on the floor and walked out. And this is what I got from that. You could hear the footsteps. And when I went to pick up my recorder, when I reached for it, I realized that it was turned 90 degrees. And it just kind of dumbfounded me for a minute. I'm going to show you some pictures of what we got that day at Miner's Delight. And I'll talk a little bit about them. This is a road that we had to drive down. This is just one of many that we drove down in Wyoming to try to find this Miner's Delight. And this is the road that it was on. If it wasn't for that sign, we would never have found it. Because when you look at satellite images, it really doesn't show the town. There's Leslie. Leslie's my wife. And she grabbed a few things and she was heading down the path towards this little gate. And you can see quite a ways down that path. It's a pretty long way down and to get to that footbridge. Here is one of the buildings. I've got an audio that I'm going to play for you in a little bit that's going to blow your mind, and I'll tell you about it when I get there. But if you look close, you can see a couple orbs in this picture. That building was way off in the distance, and I guess they're just too lazy to walk all the way over there. This one was pretty creepy. This isn't the one that I laid my recorder down in. This is the one where I got the recording of the man asking who I am, you know, who are you and what is that? That's where I got that recording. That is an old mine shaft. I was thinking about going into it, but Leslie told me, no, you're not going in there. It kind of took away the excitement, you know what I mean? I'm just going to quickly go through the ones that just show pictures of the buildings. But it gives you an idea of what this place was like. Now try to imagine this place at night. Now the only way to get through this town is a little narrow path that's probably about 2 feet wide. So you can see the path there on the left-hand side. And here you can see a few more orbs. Here's a couple more orbs. Now, when I was in there, I heard a woman's voice. And it just kind of threw me for a tizzy. It wasn't real loud, it was more like a whisper. And mind you, this is during the day. There's another orb in here. Can you see the orbs in here? We got a lot of pictures of this town. This place is just unbelievable. I'll go through them a little bit faster to get them done and over with. But it gives you an idea of what we were about to face that night. I mean, this place was creepy during the day. This place, the cemetery at the top of the hill. I'll tell you a story about that later. It happened when we were getting ready to leave. There, that is the mine that I wanted to go into. That's just one of them. But like I said, the wife said no, you know. Okay. So that got rid of all the pictures. Now, let me tell you what happened. We left there and went out to get something to eat and find a place to stay for the night. And we returned just before sundown. And we sat on the opposite side of the stream, the creek, from the town until the sun went down enough, until it got dark. And while we were sitting there and talking, we started hearing piano music. And it was coming from the town. I went through the whole entire town, through every one of the buildings, and there wasn't a piano there. So I don't know where the hell the piano sound was coming from. And mind you, the closest town is miles and miles away. We were out in the boonies, you know. But I'm going to play some of the piano music for you. And you'll also hear the water. The water was really moving pretty strong, and, you know, there's nothing I can do about it. But you'll hear the water and the piano music. Yeah, so we heard that piano music. I cranked up the volume so you could hear it better. And we looked at each other. We were just dumbfounded. And we started gathering some of the stuff that we planned on taking over into the town. We grabbed out a couple small flashlights. We didn't want too much light. We just grabbed a couple small lights. And we started across the footbridge. And as we started going over the bridge, the flashlights started flickering. I thought, that's weird, you know, what the hell is the matter with these? But once we got to the other side of the footbridge, right there by the town, the flashlights were dead. I thought, oh, damn, you know, because I just changed the batteries. I made sure we had brand new batteries before we even left our house. So I reached in the bag and I pulled out a couple more flashlights, went to turn them on. They were dead. So I pulled out my camera, tried to turn my camera on. Battery was dead. I took the video camera out, turned the video camera on. No power. The video was dead. So we started walking through the town. I drove over 700 miles. I wasn't about to turn around and leave because the equipment we had quit working, And while we were going through the town, I went to look inside this one building, and I went right up to the door to look in, and you couldn't see nothing. It was like you were looking into a black hole, a vortex. But the other buildings that I looked in that night, you could, see somewhat. We didn't have, the only light that we had was a little bit of moonlight. And even still, that little bit of moonlight at least cast some light into some of these old buildings. But this one, it was totally void of light. It was totally black. And it was just kind of freaky. So we started walking down the path a little ways. And all of a sudden, there was this shadow man in the path in front of me. I'd say he was about 10 feet away from me. And I stopped and I looked at him. Leslie's standing behind me and she's about ready to freak out. And I started walking towards him. Like I said, I just drove over 700 miles and I ain't about to turn around and go home because, some entities got a butt hurt because I'm there. And as I started walking towards him, he moved off into the tree line. Well, then a few minutes later, he came back. But this time, he was closer to me. He appeared, just appeared, in front of me. He just faded into sight. And this time he was, I'd say about anywhere from 8 to 10 feet away from me. And I stopped again. And this time I was more nervous because he was getting more daring. Last time he was quite a ways down the trail, but this time he was, damn near in my face. And I started walking towards him again. He got up and he moved back into the trees. We almost got to the end of town, and all of a sudden, a whole bunch of these shadows showed up. And they were swarming around us like the Indians would a wagon train. And one at a time would dodge a little closer to us, within a couple feet of us and move off. And they were probably, 10 feet from me. So it was the circle about 20 foot, across. And it was swarming around us. And once in a while, one of them would come in closer, then move off, closer, then move off again. And this time, I said, hey, it's getting a little too daring for me. And, it's time we, pack up and get the hell out of here. So I told him, okay, you guys win. We'll leave. We're leaving town now. And we turned around and we started walking back. And all these shadows went back into the tree line. You could see them fly back into the tree line. It was really freaky. So we crossed back over the footbridge, and I reached in the bag and I pulled the flashlight out and I turned it on and it worked. I took out the big flashlight, turned it on, it worked. I took out my digital camera, turned it on, and it worked. And all of them read that the batteries were full. Now, if that don't freak you out, I don't know what does. So we started walking back up the path to pack everything up and put it in the car. And when we got up there, Leslie opened up the door and I started putting things away in the proper places. We had different containers for everything. I started putting everything away. And while we were putting things away, we heard two men talking. And it's just like you were talking to your buddy side by side. I mean, they weren't very far away. They were probably, maybe 10 feet away, but you could hear them clear as a bell. And we turn around real quick thinking, well, maybe it's the sheriff or maybe it, somebody else. But there was nothing there. Absolutely nothing there. And the talking just lasted a couple seconds. But when we turned around and we saw that there was nothing there, we got this really, really eerie, creepy feeling, and chills just ran through my body. And I'm thinking, man, we got to get the hell out of this place. So we packed up and left. That's about the total of Miner's Delight. It is one of the strangest places I've ever been to in my life. I've been to Little Bighorn. I've been to Devil's Canyon. I've been to a hell of a lot of places, a lot of historic places, a lot of old forts and everything else. In all my years, I've never experienced anything like this. If any of you guys have a question, you can call that phone number down there at the bottom. I'll give you guys a minute if somebody wants to talk to me about this place. But Miner's Delight, I don't advise anybody to go there. And to get permission to go there, you got to get a hold of the Bureau of Land Management. And getting permission to go in there at night, it's not easy. You have to really do some swift talking. So I want to say hi to everybody that's here. I appreciate your being here. But for now on, what we're going to do, the next live feed is going to be about the Iron Horse. It's a local restaurant not too far from me. It's in Hooper, Nebraska. And it is a very, very haunted place. And I'm going to have a waitress that works there by the name of Kathy. She's going to be on live. She's going to call in, or I'm going to call her, one of the two. And she's going to tell you about some of her experiences in the Iron Horse. And we've got some good pictures. I'm going to have to try to find the videos. We got a couple videos. But it was on Fox 42 News in Omaha. They came out there and filmed it one night just before Halloween. So I'm going to get out of here, boys and girls. I want to thank you all for coming. And like I mentioned before, if you know of any real, true-to-life ghost towns in Nebraska that are abandoned with old buildings, please let us know. We want to start looking for a place so we can go there this spring and this summer and do a good investigation of it. And if you would like to go with us, let me know. Just let me know. So I'll talk to you, I'll talk to you all later. And thank you very much for coming. You guys have a good night.
You're gonna come back and see us, aren't you? You better be. We need you. We gotta have you. We depend on you. Come on back and see us. The feed is empty.